So given that dispute we've been discussing, let's hear now from two members of the House Judiciary Committee, starting with its Republican ranking member. We just saw him a moment ago. He's Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia. Welcome to the NewsHour. Again, Congressman Collins, so this news that the Attorney General will not now testify before the Judiciary Committee, what does that say to you?
It says to me exactly what the Attorney General has said all week, that this is not, he was not going to participate in a Democratic stunt in which they were trying to appear as if they're trying to do impeachment hearings, when the reality is it's an oversight hearing. He's made this very clear. So really what we saw today was the chairman and the majority sabotage their own hearing and took away the rights of Republicans and Democrats to actually be able to question Bill Barr, as the Senate was able to today in a very orderly fashion.
What would you want to hear? Do you have questions for the Attorney General had he come back before the committee?
I do. I think we would ask is how this, the process came. How did he come to his decisions? I think those are the very good questions. I also have questions on, did he have any conversations with Robert Mueller on how this actually got started? Because we see some of the results of Russian meddling and things like that, but we never really got an understanding from the investigations that we've had on the what I call the Comey cabal, of the Peter Strzok and others who actually started all this. So how did you get the information on the dossier and things like that? Those are the kind of questions that we could ask, but we could also find out how the interaction between Bill Barr and Bob Mueller actually went down.
Well, I want to ask you about that, because what we now know with this new revelation that came out last night, that the special counsel was displeased with the way the Attorney General characterized his report. What does that say to you about the way the Justice Department operates? I mean, does it give you confidence that the Attorney General is acting as an honest broker or not?
It gives me complete confidence that he does, because at the end of the day, what Bob Mueller said was, and in the letter, and the Attorney General addressed that today, was that the letter was addressed more of a style and function that they wanted to get it out as soon as possible. Bill Barr, the Attorney General, said we wanted to do the same, but they was given to him in a form in which he could not do that right away. So he said, here's the conclusions. What's interesting and is often underreported, Judy, is that the conclusions were never questioned by Bob Mueller. They never disagreed with what the Attorney General said about his conclusions. His was more form and substance to make sure that the report got out, which, by the way, Bill Barr did get out. He got it out in a very unredacted form as much as possible, and then made a copy to House and Senate leadership in the Judiciary and the Gang of Eight on both sides, of which there's only two of us who've actually read that. If my chairman on the Judiciary Committee actually was concerned about what was in that less redacted report, he would actually go read it instead of just demanding. He could actually go read it and then ask for more, but simply by saying that you are not going to see what the Attorney General give you shows that this is a politicization and simply down a path of appeasing certain members in his own committee.
But doesn't it appear, Congressman Collins, that what the attorney, or rather what the special counsel is concerned about, is that with that declaration or summary of his main conclusions, that the Attorney General, with that first, was able to frame the public's first impression of the Mueller report in a brief, digestible way, but that it did not reflect the fact that that there were still questions about obstruction of justice, that the special counsel had not reached a decision on that.
Well, he made that clear, Judy. He said that they had not come to a discussion on obstruction and that it didn't exonerate him, and actually added that in there. And there's a lot of controversy about that line in the original letter, but he also made it very clear there was no collusion. The question I have here is what matters the most, and we have the report now. Bill Barr did not take the report and hide the report. He put the report out, but he also gave us the answers to the report. So the question I have is for Democrats and others who are upset about this is, are you more concerned about the outcome, or are you more concerned about things that contributed to the outcome? Well, they're both one and the same. The same report led to the conclusions that Bill Barr put out, and, by the way, that Bob Mueller put out. Let's never forget, these conclusions were Bob Mueller's in the beginning.
And I guess maybe I should have worded it a little more carefully and said that the impression given in the conclusions put out by the Attorney General gave the sense that the special counsel had really given a clean bill of health to the president on the question of obstruction, when in fact it was more complicated than that.
Judy, I just disagree because when the Attorney General put the letter out, he stated that there was no charges of obstruction, but it didn't, and he even included the line, it did not exonerate him. I'm not sure how you get any conclusion that it was completely clean. It was really, for many of us, when I first read that, I said, well, what else, what went into this discussion? And then when we got the report, we were able to read through that. In fact, the obstruction part of this was the least redacted. In fact, only about 2% of the obstruction part was redacted at all. So you can see all the public events and see everything that's happened. Bill Barr actually did a very good job of allowing the American people and Congress to see what Bob Mueller said about obstruction and that he did not come through his legal rationale to a charge.
And finally, very quickly, Congressman, my colleagues reporting that Democrats on the committees are now probably most likely moving to issue more subpoenas in an effort to get more information from the administration. How will Republicans respond to that?
Well, they've already approved the subpoenas. We had that part of the show just a couple weeks ago. So they've already approved the subpoenas. Well, I would assume they would go ahead and do that. Again, my question is why would you sabotage a hearing when you could actually talk to him tomorrow? Why would you do something when you take the addition of staff, when you could have added complete time for members of the committee on both sides to have extra time? Is it so important to have a staff member so that you can appear to be in an impeachment proceeding? Was it so important to have that staff member ask questions that you would be willing to sabotage the Attorney General voluntarily coming? I think that's a disservice to the committee, it's a disservice to the House, it's a disservice to the American people when Bill Barr today sat for many hours voluntarily where he would have done the same thing yesterday. This is simply a show, it's simply something to make the American people think something that's not really happening.
Representative Doug Collins, who is the ranking Republican on the House Judiciary Committee, thank you very much.
Judy, thank you.